Hey everybody, it's Ed, and the future is now. Let me give a shout out, big shout out to the guys Zach and Jesse at Now You Know and Gally from Hyperchange. These guys are on the money with all kinds of information. Their research is spectacular, the way they present their shows, the way they do things, and present themselves in the most unbiased way that they can, being kind of fanboys of Tesla in a way. But anyway, I just wanted to thank them. They have definitely inspired me. I personally drive a BMW i3 electric, and so does my wife. We've been doing it for 4 months now, and it's definitely opened our eyes about the future of where we're heading with EVs. Anyway, the obstacles and roadblocks of Tesla to 2025. Where we're going, we don't need roads. It's kind of, I like see Elon Musk like just thinking this all the time, or just, he's probably said this line from Back to the Future. But I mean, to me, we are going to need roads. So anyway, autonomy is number one. Okay, that's the biggest hurdle all around. You're dealing with the laws, you're dealing with the governments. You're dealing with different economies and different governments in different countries. So this is going to be hurdles for a long time. I mean, who knows when the laws will catch up? Laws just move too slow. If we had ways for laws to move as quick as technology, this would all work perfectly. It's smooth. Anyway, market moving towards EVs. That's a good thing, right? Well, for Tesla, it's a good thing. They want this. That's what their mission is. But it's definitely going to run more competition. I mean, all the EV startups and all the players that are getting into the market. So they're going to have a lot of competition at some point. I mean, I don't see it right away, but it's going to happen at some point. So they are going to have to deal with some market share loss on competition and brand allegiance. I mean, if somebody just likes Ford or Chevy or whatever car company and they love it and they've only driven that their whole life, they're going to wait until that car company has an EV that works for them. I mean, whether it has autonomy or not. So anyway, that's an issue. Supercharger network. I mean, definitely they have to stay ahead of the production. The supercharger network, if it stays ahead of production, and I mean more stalls at more locations. So they're going to have stalls basically everywhere. I mean, I can see, the future, if there's millions and millions of electric cars out there, you're going to have a massive need for all these stalls, and people are going to be racing to charge their cars here and there, and you're going to have to get in line at these stalls. There's all kinds of issues that could come into play. Infrastructure essentially with homes and apartments. I mean, why aren't homes and apartments all being built, with, solar or charging stations in general? It's critical. We had to put a 220 in our garage just to charge the cars. So, I mean, that was to charge the cars in 3 hours instead of 16 hours. So that was to me a necessity. And but why aren't the apartment buildings being built with dozens of these charging stations? This is to me dense residential. You can hit a lot of people with this. Just putting those charging stations is like free advertising for Tesla. So to me, this has got to be solved pretty soon. Hardware performance. Okay, this is all about obsolescence, upgrading hardware. I mean, Tesla has to make it fair. So if you buy a car and 2 years later, there's a better hardware and better software that they have to. I mean, software can be uploaded, of course, but as far as hardware, I mean, they've got to make the prices reasonable for people to upgrade their older cars. I mean, you don't just necessarily have to trade them in. So that's something that, I was just thinking about. The wireless network. Now, this one's fun. Okay. Now, I was thinking, what if we had a massive, grid shutdown or, a complete failure of the network? This is going to cause all kinds of problems. But I was thinking maybe Elon might have been thinking about that when he was dealing with SpaceX and Starlink. Starlink is the constellation of satellites that is going to be trying to provide internet to the entire world. Okay, that's a big thing, but maybe he did that on purpose. I mean, just think about it. Did he do that just for Tesla vehicles? I mean, obviously he can't say that. I mean, Tesla's not owned by SpaceX and vice versa, but I'm pretty sure he could lease out all this network and have cars all over the world, any spot, no matter what location, and they can have the internet and wireless. So that's pretty big. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I think that's that may be something behind that is kind of not being told. Manufacturing the gigafactories when it comes to corporate sabotage. There was already some links like different, people from different companies were going into Tesla and kind of maybe sabotaging things and this and that. I mean, this is real. Corporate sabotage is real. I don't know what happened or not. I'm not going to speculate on that. But what I will say is, working in the corporate industry, there is corporate sabotage, and anybody that isn't aware of that is just not paying enough attention. Okay, so that's something they need to tighten up on their security. I mean, that's, to me, it's a big one there. Tesla insurance, okay, which I'm kind of excited about. They have it in California now, but I live in Florida, so hey, Elon, Tesla insurance in Florida, for when we upgrade to Teslas, that would be cool. Anyway, competition and who is at fault? Okay, first of all, the competitors, if it was me, I mean, I would just say, match whatever price, match the price. They can afford it. They have tons of money, okay, a little less advertising and match the price. Whatever Tesla's offering, match it. Okay, that's how they can compete so they don't lose all that market share. And who's at fault? Liability. Elon has claimed that Tesla will be at fault. I mean, if it's a autopilot failure or a full self-driving SFD failure, that Tesla would be at fault. But I don't think he's worried about that because the accidents are so few and far between per mile. So anyway, down to the supply chain, which something he's also mentioned, that they're at the mercy of the weakest link in the chain. It always can drive down the speed of how things are produced, okay? So obviously that's why they've gone with the vertical integration to, build the things themselves to avoid that, to disappear that chain problem, to solidify that. Anyway, and battery supply. I mean, is there an infinite supply of lithium on Earth? I mean, you could go back to oil. Is there an infinite supply of oil? No. So how much supply of lithium is on the planet? That I would love to know. And, I mean, are we going to run out at some point? How many batteries do we really have to make if we're doing planes and trains and boats and cars and all kinds of other vehicles? That's going to take a massive amount of battery supply. So that's one there. The battery technology. Okay, maybe we can't really get down to a certain price. Maybe there is a bottom to where we can price the power packs and the battery packs. So I mean, and they may not go any lower than that potentially. So I'm not sure. I mean, obviously they can't go down to zero. So there is a bottom. The question is, where is that bottom cost? And that means where's the bottom of the car pricing cost? All right, and future vehicles. They could, as in other competitors, can come in and snatch up some of the market share, because Tesla can't just produce every single car they want right now. They have to produce kind of cars one at a time. They released the Model S and X and Model 3, then the Model Y, then they're talking about the semi-truck and the light pickup truck, stuff like that. So they're going to continue on, but other people can grab some of the share of the market, and that's definitely something to be thought about. Small compact cars. Once again, what I was just kind of talking about is, I mean, what's the lowest we can get a car down to? What's the lowest we can get a fully autonomous vehicle that's electric down to? Is there a cost? I mean, can we get one down to 10,000? Is that even possible? I mean, 15, 20? I mean, where is that minimum car that we can have out there? So I don't know. Environmental disasters. This is something that I didn't really think about, and then yeah, being in Florida, you'd figure I'd think about hurricanes and stuff, but it's just what happens. Let's say we have another major hurricane and it completely wipes out a city and it floods an entire city and it floods all these cars, and there's thousands and thousands of battery cars submerged underwater, washing out to sea, whatever. I mean, what's the environmental impact of that? I mean, what's the cleanup procedure protocol down the road? This is way futuristic potentially because there's just not that many of the cars out there yet. But that's something that, once again, be proactive. Have a plan of attack at least on this. Job displacements. This is probably what most people worry about. Because it's going to displace a lot of jobs. Autonomy displaces a lot of jobs. So, I mean, if it displaces trucking and small deliveries and potentially like companies like Uber or Lyft or something like that. I mean, if the taxi network gets online and can charge that inexpensive per mile. I mean, talking about 18 cents a mile is what they're estimated to 22 cents per mile. That's incredible. So that could cause issues. Obviously, service in the other auto companies, that they're hurt by this too. I mean, if you're not servicing your car, what's the point of all those service stations? So that's an issue, and I think everybody has to tackle that, and I'll get to that a little bit later. And then we have, well, we know about this one, Facebook and Google going through all their chaos with the data sharing and privacy. Well, look at Tesla. Now they have basically 8 cameras on every car, and it's like CCTVs on wheels, just videotaping everything. Which some people say that's awesome, which is, to me, I like the concept because you really can see what's happened. It's easy to see video, and video doesn't really lie. So you can see what's really going on. But also, you're definitely going to have privacy issues, and it's just going to cause some problems. I don't know where we're going, but I guarantee that Tesla's going to have to face privacy issues and whatnot. My wife mentioned that, what about accessibility for disabled? I mean, what's Tesla doing to build cars that are capable for, the disabled? Let's say hypothetically, I mean, that you figure the autonomy is going to be great for this, because then it's going to make more people mobile that weren't mobile. But you still have to have the ability to, let's say if somebody had a wheelchair per se, then they'd have to be able to get in the car and get out of the car, even if the car drives you to where you need to go. So, I mean, this is something I think, nobody really talks about necessarily, or I haven't heard anybody talk about, but it's an interesting thing. Adoption, okay? Well, adoption is in 2 parts. You have to adopt an electric vehicle, but you also have to adopt autonomy. Autonomy means self-government. That means the car self-governs, self-governs itself. Okay, it sounds funny, but anyway, and that's the point. Do we really want to give up that freedom kind of driving, So that's a big one. And obviously, do we want to give up gas vehicles? I think that's a more compelling argument, for the environment and just overall for financial. It's definitely a lot less expensive. I mean, I pay 20 cents on the dollar as opposed to when I was paying $1 per, per, what do you call it? Per gas tank essentially. So, it's 5 times cheaper for me specifically. So that's a driving one to make it good, but people have to adopt both. If we're going in this direction, they have to adopt both. And that adoption is not automatic. It takes time, even if everybody thinks it's good and right. Affordability, some social classes in various countries may not be able to afford these type of vehicles at all. It may, kind of keep, I'm against keeping the poor and the rich rich. I don't think that's the utopia that we need to be heading for. I think we need to try to benefit the whole world, not just the rich people in the world. That doesn't make sense. Okay, that's not going to work. So, and then anyway, when you take the Robotaxi, that could be a solution. Meaning, if it's so cheap per mile, it's going to be so easy to just grab a Robotaxi and go wherever you want. It's going to be super affordable. You don't need to necessarily own a car. So car ownership may really decrease over time. That could be, we could have a future where really nobody owns cars. Is that possible? That's crazy to think about, but it's possible that, everybody is just on a platform where they're just almost ride sharing or just getting a car when they need it, because the cars otherwise just kind of sit. You don't want your car just sitting around doing nothing 90% of the time. What ifs? Okay, well, what if we go into recession? Well, basically we're looking like from 0 to 2 years we could have a recession. At least that's what most market analysts are talking about. And there's a lot of indicators that have shown that. I don't want to get into that side of it right now. But, what if we have a recession? How is Tesla hit here? How are they hurt? Well, first of all, they're almost discretionary income, because you don't necessarily, get rid of food. You get rid of high-end items, boats and airplanes and helicopters. You're not going to be buying as many of the high-end items as you would like normal stuff like food that you have to have. So that should hit them pretty hard, and not to mention there's a lot of short to the stock, so that, that can push it even further. So in worldwide infrastructure, this is the one that my wife was talking about, and this is big, because I mean, most countries, a lot of countries, their road structures are just not as good as our highway system. We built our highway system out of World War II. Okay, that was built to move tanks and people for the military. It was built to move this stuff so we can get to a location and protect our country. But then it just turned into, hey, this is a great place to drive your car. So it's weird. I mean, and that was built off the Autobahn, actually. Somebody saw the Autobahn and was like, wow, we have to have this because we can move our materials faster. So, but anyway, not all countries really have that type of infrastructure, and that's something that is going to have to be dealt with. Who builds it? Who buys it? Who pays for it? But the one last thing I want to leave you with is, well, if we're losing people that have been driving trucks and job displacements and delivery, I mean, these people know the roads, right? Well, why not have these people start moving into the worldwide infrastructure of building roads? They know how the roads are good and how they're bad. They've been on them for miles and miles, so they have mental data there that's superior to just normal Joe Schmo driving on the road. So that, to me, is something that I think you have to, if you take away something, you have to replace it. Anyway, that's all I have for now. This is the cons list, and there's a lot of things to address. But, I kind of expect Tesla and Elon Musk to tackle this like they tackle everything, with, super dedication and hyper speed. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. You can please like it or subscribe. And, I'd like to put out more different content and see what you guys really have to think about things. And thanks again to everybody. I appreciate it. Take care.